अभी recording बंद रखना क्योंकि unnecessary ये होगा. When it starts, then you can start.
10 minutes. They have to keep moving. Urinary urgencies and frequencies. Voidings of urine is slow. Okay. Interrupted urine system. Pain and before and after bowel movements. Constipation. Difficulties in doing ideal activities. Decrease in tolerance of exercises. These are all common symptoms of pelvic pains or pelvic issues. If the functional limitation continues, they result in disability, and most of them lose interest in life or any work, or they avoid going to work because doing such thing will get them affected. They cannot do it. So they lose their self-confidence in doing certain tasks like going to work, school, and other dependent. They get dependent day and day. So basically, a client would come to you with functional limitation. If not sorted out, they will move on to functional disability. These are the common brands that we get of pelvic pain. These are all the conditions that you're seeing on the screen are different brands of pelvic pain. They're a broad term. They're all classified under pelvic pains. Okay, even coccygodynia, if you can see on the left side table, constipation, hemorrhoids, they come under pelvic issues. Overactive bladder. So most of these are your clients, which you might see day-to-day life, IBS, and we tell them it's not my job. It is your job, because most of these, what you're seeing, are musculoskeletal disorders. If you can correct them, you can correct all these conditions, most of them. So pelvic pain demands and changes. What are the changes that we're going to have? What are the common changes that you see? Changes that we commonly would see is tissue recoveries, either it's delay or it's not there, weight loss, gain, shifting COG, ligament laxity, posture, sleep deprivations, mood swings. That's most commonly seen. In physio, if we cannot find an answer to anything, we usually like to say it's psychological, but no, pelvic pain is not psychological. All these are your problems. You have to address the issue. Previously, we used to give them assurance that it's not life-threatening. Previous treatments were giving them assurance it's not life-threatening. Okay, the patient used to live with it. We used to try electrical stimulation. They used to feel good for a few days, and after a few days, they used to come back, and after a few days, they again feel better, and again they come back, and on and off. Ultrasound, biofeedback therapy, hot baths, tranquilizers, anti-inflammatory. Most of your patients are still following this system because they follow their GPs most of the time, or most of the physios allow them to follow the same system. So we had a question that hyperventilation under pelvic pain. Yes, hyperventilation can occur under pelvic pain because it's the simple question is that the thing is that pelvic floor is your diaphragm. Pelvic floor is a diaphragm, and there is another above that is a primary diaphragm, is another one is called main diaphragm. So when pelvic diaphragm has to, if the other primary diaphragm is poor in function, the pelvic floor diaphragm has to work more to allow you to deep breathe, and that shortening of air can result in hyperventilation. People love smoking because of weak pelvic floor. This is one of the reasons. They don't love smoking because it's fun. They like to smoke because of the pelvic issues. Because pelvic floor weakness can also make you feel like smoking. So there are many things that we can go and discuss about in details, but we don't have that much of time that we go in about each and every topic. But just giving an example, that a weak pelvic floor diaphragm will affect the primary diaphragm, which will result in shortness of breath. The client has to take more effort and can result in hyperventilation. So traditional symptoms treatments were reassurance to the patients, electrical stimulations, ultrasound, biofeedbacks, hot baths, tranquilizers. But today, they are not limited to that. Pelvic pain, a client comes to you with pelvic pain, can come with pain like neck pain, shoulder pain, back pain, knee pain, headaches, transient osteoporosis, decurrent tenosynovitis, peripheral nerve disorders, diastasis recti. Okay, so these are the common symptoms a client would bring to you if they're having any pelvic disorders or pelvic muscle disorders. And these are the common things that we see in our day-to-day clients. So basically, a good one here is the decurrent tenosynovitis, which you could see here. Basically, that is through the myofascial chains, the prolonged pelvic floor can also give you a decurrent. That is a good example that we had a client long back, around 6 to 7 years back. We worked on, he had a treatment from various therapists and he still couldn't get it worked out. So we found there was some pelvic imbalance. We worked on that and the decurrent pain was completely gone. So that was one of the good, on that day I learned that decurrent can also be because of the pelvic floor. And so everything is not local, you also have to see global. And whenever you're seeing global, you also have to see local. Nothing is local. We don't see everything. If it is not resolving, you have to start exploring things. So from shoulder pain, neck pain, headaches, osteoporosis, decurrent, peripheral nerve disorders, diastasis recti, all these are associated musculoskeletal brands that a client would come to you with pelvic issues. He would not say, I'm having a pelvic pain. He would come to you with so many different issues. If you see here, these are your primary muscles around pelvis, and you see how they are connected to each other with a single sheet of fascia. You see a front view, it's the rectus femoris connected to the pelvis. From pelvis, it's connected to the rectus sheath, abdominis, going to the sternum, to the trapezius and glutes. So all these muscles are well interconnected. We separately, we practice them separately, but work in synchronization. They have to maintain this gap. Any of these muscles fail to perform their task, the other muscles have to overfire to compensate for it. And they keep compensating for a very long time, and one by one all the muscles gets affected and you won't see any more of them getting online. There are researches on MSK and pelvic floor pain. If you will go through it on PubMed, you will get many of them. Most of the research are not directly correlated. Each one of them is a separate model. So getting a research on decurrent to the pelvic floor, I have not found any. But there are various others musculoskeletal problems, from trapezius pain to the musculoskeletal to the pelvic floor is there. So you have to just keep searching them in a different format. Most of the things I'll be sharing here are my clinical experiences, as for you to know. And there are some evidence to it, but not to that extent, because most of it I have is clinical experience, which I feel in my clinical practice. So trigger point are your major cause of your pelvic pain. These are your 30% most around of your pelvic pain issues. All the pelvic issues that you have, somewhere or the other, 30% is basically your pelvic floor pain issue. I would recommend all to wait to ask the question in the end, because if you keep asking in the middle, it's hard to go back to the topic and come back. The request for all to please stop using the chat box. Otherwise, I have to disable, because I cannot answer and read the question and again teach. So please try to understand the inconveniences here. Please wait for your questions. Every question will be answered.
Can I take a minute, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. All the participants, we have a question and answer session at the end. I would request all of you all to please put the questions at the end of the session. Sir, please take over.
Yes, thank you. Muscle trigger point is your 30% of your pelvic pain, basically. So, and in that, trigger point plays a key role. Client may come to you with lingering pain, tightness, or muscle restriction, which in continuation would result in acid reflux, amenorrhea, restless leg syndrome, painful periods, irritable bowel syndrome, which are the other symptoms of pelvic issues. And often they are diagnosed as interstitial cystitis, chronic prostatitis, coccygodynia, but they are nothing but muscle imbalance. And if you correct them, most of them can be corrected. All these symptoms and muscles correlations can be taken from Travel-Simons. Every muscle, every symptoms is been in depth explained in it, where you can go inside and read about each and every muscle causing these symptoms. Yes, and there are evidence to it also. Going and highlighting those issues, transverse abdominis is mainly used to stabilize the low back and pelvis before the movements of arms and legs. So if there is a weak transverse abdominis, the pelvic floor muscle would create a prolapse, and there can be uterine prolapse and other symptoms that you will have it. Mid-low back pain is the most common thing that we commonly get. If the transverse abdominis is affected, the common thing a client would come to you is with bloating. They get bloating on and off, nauseas, abdominal cramps, diarrheas, irritable bowels, gastritis, GERDs. Okay, without any reason, any of these symptoms. कुछ नहीं खाया फिर भी gastritis हो गया. Nothing, कुछ नहीं करूँगा तो भी मुझे gas हो जाएगा. So most, when there is no correlation between the symptom and the cause, then you could look out for trigger points. That is when I would prefer you look out for trigger points. So transverse abdominis can give you symptoms like bloating, nausea, abdominal cramps, diarrhea, irritable bowel, gastritis. Multifidus can give you symptoms like abdominal pain, back pain, bloating, nausea, abdominal cramps, iliosacral pain, low back pain, lumbar pain, mid-thoracic. So it's a various kind of back pains in mainly, and also it can result in bloating, nausea, and abdominal cramps. Iliopsoas, mainly groin pain, iliosacral pain, appendix-like pain. Somebody just asked, is appendix a sign and symptoms of musculoskeletal pelvic disorders? Yes. So appendix-like pain is also can be because of iliopsoas. And whenever, sometimes they don't have any appendix issue and iliopsoas is positive and they get their appendix removed immediately because tenderness is positive. If you release iliopsoas, it could have resolved the issue. Soleus can result a buttock pain, back pain, restless leg syndrome. A lot of client comes to you saying at night, my calf pains a lot, and it's mainly the soleus. Heel pain, okay. Abdominal obliques can give you bloating, nausea, abdominal pains, diarrhea. Kidney pains, irritable bowel pains, laxatives, menstrual pain, pelvic pain, reflux esophagitis, urine retention, urine frequencies would change. So this is one of the common muscles which get affected in most of the clients, especially females, post-pregnancies. Sudden weight gain, sudden weight loss also affects abdominal obliques a lot. Levator and coccygeus gives you menstrual pains if they have a weak levator and coccygeus. Pelvic pain, iliosacral pains, hemorrhoids like symptoms, hemorrhoidic pain, difficulty going for bowel movements. Optotenderness can give you a pelvic pain, painful intercourse, stress incontinence, menstrual problems. It can be amenorrhea, dysmenorrhea. Gluteus medius can give you various types of pelvic pain. Gluteus maximus can give you buttock pain, sciatica-like pain, impotence, fertility issues, not only to male and female, both male and female fertility issues can get affected with Gmax. So a lot of female who are not able to conceive, they might have a weak Gmax. Sorry, I don't have a direct research adding to it, but in my clinical practice, this is what I have found, and this is what I've been practicing. So I don't have a direct correlation on that, but they have in Eastern medicines, they do have a connections. In Western medicine, sorry, they don't have any connections. But in clinical practice, what we see is, yes, Gmax plays a very important role because the nerves which are supplied to your reproductive system are passing in and around Gmax, and any weakening of Gmax will affect those nerve firing. Hence, reproductivity will affect it. Gluteus medius can give you pain like sciatica minimus. QL can give you back pain, thigh pains, iliosacral pains, abdominal cramps, bloating, nausea again. Piriformis can again, same as impotence, painful intercourses, sexual stress incontinence, or anal general perineal pains. A lot of perineal pains are commonly complained because of piriformis. The bowel disturbance, they cannot go for clearing of bowel a lot of time because of difficulty in sitting in Indian toilets. So these were the common muscles which we see in our clinical scenarios to know getting affected for pelvic pain. And there are no one muscle. You could see I've covered some around 8 to 10 muscles, and there are list of muscles adding to it which can be added more and more so that you would see that how they are affecting it. But this is just an example. And this example is not to be limited to these muscles. There are more adding to it. But pelvic pain, according to a physio, they would like to work on the muscles only, and I would not say that's a good idea. APTA has given permissions to physios in other countries to practice as a primary role in nutrition in 2019, 18 or 19. And we see nutrition also plays a major role in pelvic pain because as muscles get weak and weak, it puts excessive load on the viscera where the nutritional absorption gets reduced. So you have to work a lot on the nutrition, where 31% is a musculoskeletal pain, the others 37 gastro, 12 urologic, 20 reproductive. From there also you will get a lot of musculoskeletal, also nutrition. So nutrition helps in absorbing healing nutrients, impact pain levels, and supports your recovery. You have to look on varieties of nutrients from whole nutrients, dense and organic foods, so rainbow colored veggies, gluten free. I would prefer coconuts and almonds as a home program. Healthy fats from coconut oil, ghees, brown rice syrups, beverages as a water, no Coca-Colas or any other bottled or canned juice. Herbs and spices as much as possible. Consider elimination diet because if you are, it can be that you're sensitive to something that can also result in a pelvic pain. Heal your hormonal system. People nowadays are connected to Zoom, over connected to Zoom and other things. And this over connection to the laptop and mobiles have affected your hormones a lot. People who used to sleep by 10 now sleep by 2 p.m. and they are not getting enough sleep, again get up at the same time in the morning, and that is affecting your healing capacity. Your hormones don't get a reset time, and that affects you more than anything. Practice yoga, breathing exercises, breath works, and other things to help your lifestyle get better. In the clinical practice of all the nutritions that we see, I mainly focus on magnesium because in magnesium, we see most of the magnesium affects pelvic. PMS pain is basically a magnesium deficient. A lot of females have excessive menstrual pain which they cannot handle it before and after. Giving them magnesium support has reduced that a lot. Now they get a better cycles. Magnesium helps in sleep, calcium absorption, blood regulations. You have to understand that now as we are eating more and more sweets, every molecule of sugar consumes 54 molecules of magnesium. And you don't eat that much of magnesium against sugar right now. So the more prone you are eating to the sugar, every small molecule of sugar that you eat, imagine 54 molecules of magnesium in your body are getting consumed to compensate it. And that's a huge research. That's a huge number. You have to understand the importance of it. So if you're getting magnesium deficient, your calcium absorption, osteoporosis will early kick in, arthritis may early kick in, memory issues, pelvic pains. It has more than 700 enzymatic functions and is one of the most crucial nutritions in the body. So most of the client who comes to us in the clinic, whom we are treating with pelvic disorders, I always give them magnesium as a support with affirmations. We have different magnesiums with affirmations and all. So in physical therapy management, you have to look for connective tissue mobilization, myofascial trigger point releases, neural mobilization, pelvic floor lengthening, correcting biomechanics, and more if you can. Looking at the connective tissues, you have to release the series of muscles which are getting affected: pelvic floor, bony pelvis, abdominal, thigh, glutes, erector spinae. You have to connect them, all connective tissue. You have to release them all in a series, and not we will release today glutes and tomorrow thigh and day after tomorrow erector spinae. No. You have to release the series of muscles in and around the pelvis to create the maximum response. And poor posture. So a connective tissue can give you poor posture, poor breathing pattern, poor movement behavior, poor motivations, locally tenderness, hyperalgesia, trophic changes. Hence, releasing the connective tissue in all will give you a faster result. Myofascial trigger point releases can be done with the foam rollers, tennis ball, MFR, regular exercises, diet, dry needling, anything that you like of. Neural mobilization plays a very important role, okay, and in reducing swelling, increasing circulation to the nerve, reduces pain. We usually prefer pudendal nerve releases or sciatica nerve release. You can do neural good mobilization of that. Pelvic floor is not limited to Kegels. Okay, so pelvic floor does not mean only Kegel. It is more than that. You have to identify which type of pelvic floor a client is going through: hypotonus, hypertonus, or an overactive, and accordingly you will create your pelvic floor program. It's an individual based program. You cannot, not every pelvic floor is Kegel. That is the only thing I can tell you right now in a short point. Correcting biomechanics is one of the important factors you have to look for. Because if the biomechanics is not corrected, it will keep shedding load on the primary muscles and you will not get maximum response out of the muscles. Jaw and pelvis connection. There are a lot of studies that has been done by dentists and physiotherapists that if you release the jaw, the pelvis pain is reduced, and if you release the pelvis, the jaw pain is reduced. So, and there is a close connection between them. That is an embryological development. Through embryological development, fascia connection, craniosacral connection, you can look at various connections that you think of. But there are close connections between jaw and pelvis. I always see jaw and pelvis is like a battery where you have a positive pole and a negative pole. So if the pelvis is imbalanced, there is a lot of extra energy that is stored in the positive pole. So a lot of our physios are working on a pelvic floor, but still they don't get a good results because they don't release the energy from the other side of the pole. And if they are releasing on the other side, they are not working on the same side. So a lot of jaw pains we see because of the pelvis, or pelvic pain because of the jaw. So we don't complete any session of the pelvic rehab till we release also the jaw muscles along with the pelvis muscles. So they both are highly interconnected. We always make sure whenever we are working on pelvis, we are also working on the jaw, and vice versa. There are a lot of researches or evidences you will see that after removal of RCT or tooth removal, you will see they are having one or the other pelvic issue after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years, and so on. And there are research adding to it. You can search it on it, and you would see that it does affect one way or the other. So a jaw directly affecting the pelvis and pelvis affecting the jaw is common thing. The whole idea of this today's topic is to make you understand pelvic pain is not limited to pelvic floor. Pelvic pain is more around the muscles around it. One. Two, the most important part is also nutrition. You have to give along with pelvic floor or pelvis whenever you're treating our pelvis muscles, and also connect the jaw and pelvis muscles. Till you do not work in synergy with all three, getting a long-term result or a better result is difficult. I'm not saying you will not get a result or you will not get your benefits, but getting a long-term result is difficult. So you might work on them very hard, you might get a temporary result, and after 1 week he or she might come back that I have the pain again. Maybe working on both will give you very long-term management and maybe a better result and less effort work you might have to do on the client. So this was it. And now I can see the questions. I'll be answering them, which I could see right now on my screen. Is pelvis pain referred to appendix? I already answered that. It can be because of iliopsoas. Which book, sir? There is no one book for the pelvis. There are various books in the pelvic floor. I have around 75 books which we merged up, and you are using almost all of them in day-to-day practices. It is not that one protocol which works on one client will work on the second client or the third client. No, it's not like that. Prevalence-Simons is a book preferred for trigger point understanding. It's a good book. It gives you in-depth about how muscles and how symptoms are really correlated from diarrhea, constipation, or dyspepsia can be because of the muscle, and how you can release the muscle and reverse these symptoms from constipation to diarrhea, and all how they are interconnected from reproductivity, infertility, how they are connected to the muscles, and releasing them will reverse those. So what about bloating, insomnia, constipation in pregnancy? In pregnancy, your muscles get stretched and they create more trigger points, and you will have those symptoms. That is a secondary complication of pregnancy, and we cannot do the release on that time because it's a protective mechanism of the body. You have to keep going to it. After pregnancy, if you still continue to have the constipations, bloating, or insomnias or anything, then we would like to work on your pelvic floor. Obstetrical internals can result in pelvic pains, sexual intercourse issues, back pain. These are the common symptoms. Which magnesium support? There are around 16 types of magnesium. We test each one which gives the maximum strength from the client, and we use that accordingly. I usually prefer magnesium oil, which I make according to my own standards in my own clinic, and we give it to the clients. And what about strengthening core muscles? You can strengthen the core muscles, but if you're strengthening the whole core muscle, the one which is strong, which is overfiring, will overfire, and the one which is weak will take longer time to fire. I would rather recommend first strengthen the weak muscle, start strengthening the weak muscle, and slowly move to the core strengthening. I prefer magnesium oil as the best absorption rates. How do we strengthen each muscle individually? You can, if you cannot strengthen each muscle, there are exercises in which you can minimize the other muscles, isolate them as much as possible, minimize the other muscle use into it. How smoking is related to pelvic floor? Because if smoking is like whenever you create a suck, you try to create a suck, put your hands over here and try to create a suck, and just put your hand and try yourself to put a hard suck and feel your pelvic floor. Is it getting contracted or not? If you cannot feel in one instance, try doing 10-15 times. You will see somewhere or the other your pelvic floor is contracting. And that is an urge. Whenever it's weak, it's an urge for your pelvic floor to contract. Hence, the muscle will contract. To keep contracting, it will make you go for urge to smoke, because that's the easiest way to tell your body to go to smoke. Elaborate pelvic treatment, it's an individual based program. If you find out from the series of muscles which is most affected, find out which muscle is most affected, treat that first, get it working. If gluteus maximus is most affected, treat that first, get it activated. Give them exercises first only for Gmax. Once they get Gmax better, then I might use with the abdominal. Then I might start with the core or combined agonist and antagonist exercises. How can we diagnose that whether the pelvis pain is because of the jaw or not? It's an assessment skill. I would rather, if you're working around the pelvis and you're not getting any result, start working around the jaw and see. Work on the masseter, pterygoids, temporalis, and see if the pelvis pain has changed now. These three muscles are commonly affected. Working on one of them should give you a good initiation of change. That means somewhere or the other jaw is involved. So if jaw is involved, then I would work with jaw. There is it's a huge assessment of jaw and pelvis, which cannot be covered in 1 hour class, sorry. But we do cover this in 5 days pelvic floor workshop that usually I take in Mumbai and Delhi. It's a 5-day workshop which you're asking me to cover in 1 hour time, less than 1 hour of time, not even 1 hour, which makes it difficult. What is the direct link between diet support and trigger point release? If you will read Travelin Simons very carefully, in her 4,000 page book, she has a 2-volume book, okay? And in that 2-volume book, of her 4,000 pages, only one line which I like the best she wrote, more than 40% client, try to understand the words, more than 40% of the client had their trigger point symptoms back and back again due to lack of vitamin inadequacies. So if you are having any low vitamins or minerals, every muscle has its own nutritional count. So if you are having low on nutrition, symptoms of trigger point will keep reoccurring. You may do releases 100 times, but you might have to do next 100 also. But if you give them, every muscle has their own particular nutrition, and if you give them that particular support, maybe you might not have to release that many times, because it is coming back because of the dietary deficiencies. I can give you an example. A client came to us with jaw pain very long back, and he had tried everything. We have tried everything, nothing worked. So the best thing what I was thinking was, after doing everything, we just tried with nutrition, and one B6 capsule has given him 100% pain off. So it was nutritional deficiency. If someone has a pelvic inflammatory disease, how much time it takes to cure, how much approach you would take, that will decide your cure. If you only stick to a manual fascia release approach, it might take longer to cure. If you use other approaches along with it, it will take faster to cure. If I have got a case with coccygodynia and also jaw pain in the pelvis, how to treat? You have to treat both jaw and coccygodynia simultaneously. It's not only the jaw. You might have to do a jaw release and the coccyx release simultaneously in the same session. Can you demonstrate 1 or 2 techniques of pelvic pain release? There is no standard technique. If you're going to ask me to show you the technique how to do an IT band release or a rectus abdominis release, you all know how to do it, as you all are physios. It's been known and understood. You know how to do QL release by stretching and everything. It's the whole idea of this seminar is to make you understand the importance how QL can create a pelvic pain, how rectus can create a pelvic pain, and you may do the release accordingly. Magnesium rich food, almonds, coconut, drumsticks are the good magnesium rich food that you can follow. With releasing muscles, it is equally important to strengthen the core muscles. Release the muscles, strengthen the one which is the weakest first, and then go to the core. How to treat hyperventilation for female complaining post-delivery. Worked on the rectus abdominis and diaphragm. Possible, kindly share the article related to pelvic floor muscle weakness causing smoking. Let me look at it and I'll share it with you. Please spell the name of the books. It's Travelin Simons, Myofascial Pain Syndrome. What are the other exercises other than Kegel? You can do Pilates, you can do Swiss ball exercise therapy, you can do many exercises as you like. So bloating is a symptom of many muscles, so can be concluded the involvement of particular muscles. Bloating is mainly the rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, obliquus, and multifidus. Is there a permanent solution to cure PID? Everything is permanent if you work in it in a proper way. If you don't, it's like whenever you're working with PID disorder, it's like a cooking. It's like a cooking, and cooking is an art. You have to first, if you're cooking any dish, it's like first thing will go first, second, third, fourth. If you put things randomly and cook, you create a chaos. You cannot cook anything well. So treatment of PID is an art. You have to always follow a series. First, release, strengthen the weakest, support with nutrition, and balance the other part of the body. ISTM works, yes, it does. We have ruled out pelvic organ prolapse or pelvic floor in case of stress incontinence. Organ pelvic prolapse is also because of musculoskeletal imbalance in the pelvic floor. So if you work on the muscle organ balance, if you work on the muscles, you might able to reduce the organ prolapse effect, or stress incontinence can be reversed. Understand isometric exercise for each muscle and their NMT. There is no one book, sorry. Mention the diet is important case and trigger point. Can you please let us know about the same? There is no one diet. There are many books. There are many books which says about, there are various diets adding to it. We, as I said, we test the muscle which they are testing weak for it. Identify their diet. Every individual will be lacking a different diet or a nutrition. We have to identify what they are not able to take or what is their normal routine. Like if they are of a particular community like Jainism, they might not be following or eating particular things, lacking on a particular pain or particular issues on diet, and so they cannot have particular diet in them. We ask them to have an alternative so that they can cover up their diets. So a diet along with supplements needs to be implemented with pelvic pain. Yes. If severe menstrual pain, so that should self-management diet and muscle strength. Yes. Is diaphragm dysfunction related to pelvic floor muscle function? Yes. Are there any of these exercises contraindicated so soon after delivering? I always prefer low grade exercises, and after that you can do any grade exercises after 2 months. How many sessions are usually required considering release and strengthening? We don't count on the sessions. It's an individual based, it's an individual client program. Does squatting good for pelvic floor muscles? If it is in hypertonic pelvic floor, squatting is good. I don't prefer in hypotonus. Pelvic pain when driving, how to treat it? Pelvic pain when driving is basically iliopsoas. I would like to work on piriformis and iliopsoas. How can we guide our patients to minimize the trigger point development in the muscle? Ask them to do the exercises as you prescribe them. What exercises is there for PID? I said there are no one set of exercises. You have to identify which muscle is affected and then give it to it. When can an individual start with strengthening exercise after delivery? 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. So here we cover most of the questions. Severe menstrual pain, so should the, if severe menstrual pain, so what should self-management diet and which muscle strengthen? Rectus abdominis is released, and magnesium-rich diet is the preference of choice. For menstrual pain, I always prefer magnesium-rich diet and rectus abdominis is released. If that doesn't work, then we go for ilioinguinal and iliohypogastric release. That is a nerve release. How many sessions? Nobody can tell. Is there any correlation between chronic diabetes and pelvic pain? In long term, yes. In short term, no. How can we guide our patient to minimize the trigger point developed in the muscle? Exercise. Any kind of exercise program they can continue. When can an individual start strengthening? Actually, already answered. If a non-sexually active woman is showing symptoms of weakness in pelvic floor muscle, then how to check strength? There are various ways to check the strength. I usually check with the bridging exercises, bridging protocol, which is which I could not be able to demonstrate because I don't have any model today at clinic with me. Pain near the ischium and heaviness of the leg, has a history of low back pain, can't sit for a long time. I would prefer do an obturator release. Obturator internus release. I always guide what education do I give to my patient? Do a good release, follow the strengthening protocol, follow a good diet, and stay positive, because a lot of pelvic pains are because of the fear and anxiety also, an emotional aspect adding to it. I think that would be it, and I'll be handing over to Dr. Nirali. Yes, Dr. Nirali.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, sir. It was a very, very informative session. Thank you for your precious time. I would like to thank you on behalf of entire Maharashtra team and all the participants for sharing your deep knowledge on pelvic pain. I would also like to thank all my colleagues of IIPWC state team for their relentless efforts in organizing this webinar. And thanks a lot to all the participants, those who have shown great interest and support to make the webinar a great success. So thank you. Thanks for answering all the queries.
Thank you, ma'am, and appreciate for all to keep the patience of asking the questions. This is a 5 days workshop which we cannot compile in. I know you have plenty of questions and it can be answered, but it cannot be answered within a half an hour or 1 hour of session of workshop. Everything has a correlation, and hope to see you someday so that we can discuss about it in a very long time. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate and hope for good health in this hard time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate.